the long flight from London to Winnipeg, the Beatles were interviewed as soon as they stepped off the plane.
Oh, there is John, there is George, and Ringo with his glasses, his inevitable glasses. Fantastic as they are still the schoolboy from around the corner. This business has never affected them to the point where they don't talk to anybody or do anything. We're going to try to move in and see if we can get an interview. How was your flight from London? Uneventful?
I hope so.
Yes. And you're looking forward to your second tour of America? Yeah. This is the first time that all four Beatles have actually landed on Canadian soil together, am I right?
Yeah.
And actually it's nice because the kids have never had a chance to see you before. Your picture's doing great in town too, Paul. Yes, very well. Excuse me, I'm trying to get a through to John here if I can.
John!
John Lennon. May I speak to you for a moment? Bob Burns from Channel 7 Television. John?
That's not my fault.
I know. Your picture's doing very well here in town.
Is it good? Is that up there?
We saw it. That's that one right there.
All right, Tom. That's jolly good. That's my English voice.
Yeah. How about the Liverpool voice?
Well, jolly good stuff, David. All right, yeah, all right.
Knickers. Right. Knickers. All righty. How was the trip over from London? Uneventful?
Well, it was long.
7-hour flight. You glad to stretch your legs, I suppose?
Well, amongst other things, yes.
You are playing in San Francisco tonight?
Am I?
Are you?
I hope so, yes.
You better.
This man's butting in while we do the interview. Don't worry about it.
It's all right. We'll try to move along now. We'll try and speak to Ringo for just a moment if it's possible.
You can do that.
Very crowded around the steps here of the Pan American plane. We're trying to get over to move in, excuse me. Just trying to get in here to see Ringo, the drummer of the Beatles. Ringo Starr, Bob Burns from Channel 7 Television here.
All right,
Ringo, we'd like to congratulate you boys on the fine job you did on your movie, A Hard Day's Night.
Thanks very much.
And do you have any other movies coming in?
February we start the next one.
Very nice. And you're on your way now to San Francisco.
Yeah, we start a tour. We do 25 cities. But we come back for a couple of days anyway.
Yeah, you'll be here in Toronto and then Vancouver.
Yeah.
Well, we wish you all the success in the world. Ringo?
Hey, Ringo.
The congestion and the crowd is just fantastic here at the Winnipeg International Airport. Janet, nice to have you here in Winnipeg.
Thank you.
Welcome to Channel 7.
Hello.
Janet, how did you find the boys coming over?
They're very pleasant indeed. They're terribly nice boys. Very ordinary, but just good fun and very sweet.
I have the impression, and did they give you this impression, that they are completely unaffected by all this power that they have over those kids?
They are. They're so ordinary and not in the least bit spoiled. And it's so nice and refreshing, you know.
Do they have this wonderful sense of humor off stage that they do in their movies and on stage itself?
Yes, they do. Right through the demonstration of Life Jacket, they were clowning around and making jokes, and they're just joking all the time. They're really very nice.
So all you can say about the Beatles from your impression over the last 7 hours is that they are totally unaffected but most talented young men.
That's very true.
Well, there is the story of the arrival of the Beatles at the Winnipeg International Airfield here in Winnipeg. They've had a fantastic response from the youngsters in this area, who, of course, appreciate them and love them as the king of this world of music as it is today. Our congratulations once again to Mr. Stan McDonald, Public Relations Officer of Air Canada, Mr. Jack Smythe, who is the manager of the Winnipeg International Airport, Mr. Jack Norrington from Pan American Airways itself, and of course, all the fine people who helped us here today. This is Bob Burns speaking from the Winnipeg International Airfield.
As the plane was about to take off after the short layover, a young boy had made a mad dash to the plane before being subdued by police. The Beatles flew on to LA, where again they were interviewed. This time it was more organized, with a proper press conference.
Hello, everybody. This is John Willis for Hollywood Star Newsreel. Once again, we're going to take you to meet some of the great names in the entertainment world. This is the glamorous world of the Hollywood stars.
The Beatles, one of the most electrifying names ever to hit show business. Here on Hollywood Star Newsreel is a dramatic, candid look at these incredible entertainers. Not for 1 minute will we try to explain this phenomenon, but here is the remarkable proof of what they did to Hollywood, a town that lives with the brightest stars in the business day in and day out. This is Los Angeles International Airport, besieged for hours with thousands of teenagers waiting for their idols. The arrivals of the Beatles' big Pan Am jet stretches their patience almost to the breaking point. Their effects on Europe and America, almost unbelievable.
What do you think of your movie?
Whose offer?
Second cousin.
He's
No
no
distance,
relation.
I don't even know her, you know. Believe me.
Sorry, what were you going to say? Oh, you were going to say something.
You know what happened in Sweden?
It was very big. Very good. I can't tell, yeah. Can you count?
5 and 6, I'd say.
There's a lot of people.
I don't.
No,
do you mind, sir,
we
we're
like the
trying to
variety.
make sit the television here, do you know?
Doing a bit of each, you know.
What is your opinion of other groups that pattern themselves after you?
Great. We don't know any.
Most of them don't. Most of them try to be different. That's the point.
What sort of blended in the group?
Crap. Crap. What is the R.A.T.? I don't know, it's a dice game. It's a dice game. A dicey game. You thought it was something else, didn't you? You're a naughty journalist.
Let me ask you this question. With all of this...
They then took off again, landing in San Francisco at 6:27 p.m. The San Francisco Chronicle estimated that between 5,000 and 10,000 fans were waiting around the airport at a designated spot named Beatlesville.
Good evening. The Beatles are just minutes away from the Bay Area tonight, and the welcoming crowds are growing to meet them, and for a late report, we go to Rod Sherry at San Francisco International Airport.
This is the sight and sound of anticipation as thousands of youngsters, some of whom have brought their parents, are gathered here at San Francisco International Airport to greet this historic day being the arrivals of the Beatles here at the airport. They will be landed here
brought in by bus to a special area that perhaps over the heads of these enthusiastic youngsters you can see in the background. It's a cyclone-fenced area that has been dubbed Beatlesville, set up here by the airport officials. Now, there are 125 deputies of the San Mateo Sheriff's Department who are here on hand to handle crowd control. We could probably use a few of them right here, but the youngsters are enthusiastic, and the Beatles will be taken from here to the... No. They'll be taken to the Hilton Hotel by a special bus, but they will greet their fans here in that special area called Beatlesville. Well, so much for scene setting. Now let's talk to some of these youngsters who have been here for who knows how long. How long have you been waiting for the Beatles?
About an hour.
Just about an hour?
Yeah, I think he's kind of a rat man myself, though.
Oh, well, I think that's a masculine viewpoint. Let's ask a young lady. How about you?
All day almost.
You've been here all day?
Yeah.
What is it that you like about the Beatles?
I like their hair.
Their hair. How about their singing?
Oh, I like that too. But I like the hair better.
And the personality.
Yeah.
How long have you been a Beatle fan?
As soon, right, my girlfriend. When they started.
And do you recall how long that is? Do you keep a log of their activities?
No.
Mm-hmm. Does it bother you that there are so many groups trying to imitate the Beatles?
Yes.
Do you think that any of them come close to imitating the Beatles?
No.
Okay, fine. Where's another young lady? Can we find another one here? Here. Here's another one over here. Come on. We'd like to get your reaction to the Beatles if we can see you here in this crowd. Which one of the Beatles is your favorite?
George!
And why George?
Oh, because he's just the best one.
For what reasons? Don't you have a reason?
He sings better.
Mm-hmm. How can you tell when all the fans seem to make so much noise you really can't even hear the Beatles when they sing? It does penetrate. If you were able to have a date with one of the Beatles, which one would you prefer?
Ringo.
Why Ringo?
He seems like he'd be easier to talk to.
Mm-hmm. All right, fine. What does your boyfriend think of the Beatles?
I don't like him.
He doesn't like them.
For what reason? Is he jealous of them?
No, I just don't think he likes them because they're a success.
I see. How about you? If we can get you here in the crowd. What do your parents think of the Beatles?
Oh, they're fine.
The parents?
Yeah, they like them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were they admirers of Frank Sinatra in that earlier craze?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How long have you been a Beatle fan?
Well, ever since I saw them on the Ed Sullivan Show.
Uh-huh. Did you enjoy their appearance?
Very much. I thought their movie was terrific.
Can you describe just exactly? Enthusiasm carries itself away here. Can you describe exactly how you feel when you watch and hear the Beatles?
I don't know. I think they're just great.
Just
You have
great.
to just watch them move.
All right, let's get another masculine viewpoint. What's your opinion of the Beatles?
Well, I think I like their records and everything, but I think it's absolutely insane the way people go running around.
Well, you ran out here.
But I ran out here to be on television.
Well, that's as good an answer as any. Well, there you have somewhat of a reaction. And while we said there was 125 deputies out here, we sure could use one now. The Beatles will be arriving any moment, and enthusiasm keeps building up as that magic moment arrives. So, for what is left of him, this is Rod Sherry at Beatlesville, San Francisco International Airport.
There you have it, part of the unexplainable Beatle army at San Francisco International Airport. And Rod, there's no hazard pay connected with that report. And by the way...
We go to, first of all, we go to the West Coast, which is San Francisco, all around there. And apparently when we get to San Francisco. It's been arranged that we'll have a ticker tape welcome, you know, about those. I mean, that's great. I can't imagine that, but it sounds very good.
I remember once when we were going to go back for the second tour of America, and they were saying, oh yeah, we're going to start in San Francisco with a ticker tape parade. And that was once when I actually did say, you know, I'm not going. I'm not having a ticker tape parade. You know, I mean, it was only, seemed like a year since they just assassinated Kennedy. And I could just imagine, you know, how mad it is in America, you know.
And we do concerts in very big places like Hollywood Bowl and the Cow Palace, where all this election stuff for the President of America has been recently. And that place, actually, one thing about that place is it holds 18,000 people. And somebody told us from America that the tickets, the 18,000 tickets were sold out in 3 hours, which, you know, I really can't believe. It still amazes me. It's ridiculous. We go all over America. We go to 25 big cities, playing similar type dates to that.
For the tour, the Beatles had a relatively large entourage on tour with them. As always, there were road managers Neil Aspinall and Mal Evans, manager Brian Epstein and press officer Derek Taylor, also assistant press officer Bess Coleman, and the official tour photographer was Kurt Gunther. Travelling with them as journalists were Ivor Danis of the London Daily Express, Art Schreiber of Cleveland's KYW, Anthony Delano of the Daily Mirror, and Ian Lindsay Smith of the Daily Mail, as well as George Harrison, a writer with the Liverpool Echo, who was especially pestered by fans mistaking him for the Beatle whom he shared a name with. They also travelled with their support acts, Jackie DeShannon, the Exciters, and the Bill Black Combo. Some others from the entourage that aren't in the photo are the Righteous Brothers, Larry Kane of Miami radio station WFUN, journalist Chris Hutchins, US tour manager Bob Bonus, and Brian Epstein's secretary Diana Vera.
That's an experience very few people can imagine.
It was 6 weeks of practically one-nighters. There were other people on the show. I fortunately knew to sing up-tempo songs because no one wanted to hear anyone but the Beatles, me included. But it was remarkable because it was the first of its kind. It's the first, it is the first artists, the Beatles, that came along that were marketed the way Elvis Presley was. So to me, that's when marketing of an artist really kicked off. And it's, you know, elevated to way up there now.
And who else was on that tour with you?
The Righteous Brothers, the Exciters, just a group of people who had records that were going well at the time. But the Beatles, when I first met Paul and John, they heard my demos because I would send them over, and we had the same publishing company in England at the time. So they were very familiar with the work that I had done.
The very first U.S.
know that, the first U.S. tour, and you were there.
Yes,
and you met those guys.
Oh, we met them and we hung out with them. We were all teenagers. They were teenagers and so were we. And we hung out with them and we had some phenomenal memories. When you see films and videos about the Beatles tour, you mainly see the Beatles and you see how crazy the fans were. You don't see all the other people that were on the tour, and you don't see all our experiences. Like, there were some people who came and who went and came. They only spent like maybe 1 week or 2 weeks, that leg of the tour. But the Exciters and Jackie DeShannon did the whole entire tour, so we all became very good friends. And the Beatles, Jackie DeShannon, and we spent a lot of times together, especially on the plane. When I say the plane, you know, like I always say, I always tell everybody, in America, when you do big time, one-nighters with big time people, you ride on the fancy bus or the fancy trailer, but they went over and above that. The Beatles, in the Beatles tour, we did one-nighters by prop jet, a jet plane. It was, they
Must
had
have been fun flying on a
it was
jet
awesome.
Like that.
It was so awesome. We used to
You remember it well, don't you?
Oh yeah, I remember every single thing. And they
You have a photographic memory, do you?
You know, they clicked with us because we were like music fanatics, and they were music fanatics, and Jackie was a music fanatic. So that was a match made in heaven. The three of us. You know.
hung out with Jackie DeShannon.
Oh,
man.
she
Wow.
was awesome. She was
something,
so, she was great.
We opened the show with 3 or 4 instrumentals, which excited no one, and then the Righteous Brothers came out as the first singing act, and they had out a record called Little Latin Loopy Loo. They hadn't had any big hits yet. That was it. And Jackie DeShannon, she did 2 or 3 songs, I don't even remember them, but just some standards. And then they had a vocal group called the Exciters, and they had 1 hit record, so that qualified them. So there was our show. Then the Beatles came out, and I can assure you no one heard them. We had no sound reinforcement in '64. Nothing. The house sound. You say something, and in about 3 seconds you'll come back and you'll hear it. But they were screaming so loud. Nobody could have heard.
Well, first off, I mean, we kind of heard maybe a record or something on the Beatles, and like I said, and this was before Love and Feeling. Yeah, we got the offer to go on the Beatle tour, but we didn't know that what was going to happen, and I'm not sure that they did either. But it was the most unbelievable tour, that certainly we ever did. And they were great, and they're great guys, and obviously brilliant writers. And Brian Epstein, while we were on the tour, asked us, he wanted to manage us. I said, no, yeah. Said, no, you're going to have enough trouble with these 4 guys.
After arriving in their hotel in San Francisco, the Beatles held yet another press conference.
Well, yeah. Started it last day. Pardon? Very tiring. Sort of like a plane trip, boring.
Well, very fun. We've been going 17 hours now.
About once every 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Actually, it's cut, you know.
You see more of it this time than you did last. Well, I only saw the airport last time, so I've seen more already.
Seen him before.
Can you direct your questions so everybody can hear them, please?
Lady in the hat.
Just a minute, there's Derek.
A big hand.
I'd like to introduce you.
This is our press We came down early because we couldn't get through to your room. Sorry. Oh. Well, would you like to tell Pardon?
We don't plan.
Red?
It's not black.
Oh, no. Well, I've had a shower, you see. It sometimes goes a bit funny when one can never tell one gets under the water.
Ringo.
Yes, someone.
You look too happy when you get off the airplane.
If you've been on it 15 hours, how would you look?
How would he look, Ringo?
I don't know. Look at him now.
Look at him. Yes. He looks
Pick on me, son.
5 days.
Son?
Well,
he admits his age. Sorry about that.
there you go. I've had him on for 3 years. Don't keep saying I'm changing.
Ringo, can you look this way and hold your rings out?
Could you do it again, Ringo?
Ringo, could you?
One
over here. Ringo. Just one more for the East Coast.
Back at the Hilton, Brian was kept busy with a businessman named Charles Finlay, who showed up offering the Beatles $60,000 for a show in Kansas City, which was more than any other show on the tour. Brian declined due to the already ultra-busy schedule. Finlay did not relent, however, eventually offering $150,000 for the Beatles to come to Kansas City. And this offer Brian couldn't refuse, so Kansas City was added to the ultra-busy schedule.
Hundreds of people, mostly girls, as you can see, have massed here behind ropes which have been put up by the police. The Beatles are on the 15th floor. We are on the 6th floor, which is why you see them looking right past us. Someone, obviously, is putting his head out of a 15th floor window. We have no idea as to whether it's a Beatle or not, and I'm sure most of the girls down on the street don't really know whether it's a Beatle. At various times, they will begin chanting, "We want Paul," or "We want Ringo," or "We want George," or "We want John." Once again, someone has put his head out of the window. It has been like this now for about an hour. You may or may not be able to hear the police loudspeaker, which is drowned out every time the girls start screaming. The police have their hands full trying to keep the street clear. It's not an easy task. This, we are positive, is absolutely nothing compared to what the Cow Palace will be like this evening.
Also on the morning after they arrived in San Francisco and before their first concert, a 15-year-old girl met Paul at their hotel. The story goes that a girl and two of her friends went to the Hilton Hotel and were trying to find a way to see the Beatles, and eventually saw a journalist who was on her lunch break, and the journalist had a note saying that she was allowed to see the Beatles and interview them. Somehow the girls managed to talk to the journalists, and the journalist went and saw Paul and told Paul that there were these girls there wanting to see him, and Paul said, "Go get them and bring them in." The young girl remembers the conversation where the journalist said to Paul that she thinks that the Beatles records are improving, and the girl says that Paul kind of looked dismayed, and the girl said, "I think your records have always been great." And then the journalist said that she used to be a member of the Elvis fan club, and the young 15-year-old girl groaned, and Paul looked over to her, and they all started laughing.
Oh, the big moment is at last upon us, as the Cow Palace braces for the mass invasion. Actually, the crowds here were remarkably well behaved. Police were careful to let only those with tickets near the palace. There was no trouble at all. Vendors were everywhere, selling Beatle dolls, posters, albums, books, buttons, wigs, and selling them as fast as they could clutch the dollar bills and thrust out the merchandise. Brace yourself, for we shall now go inside for the concert. If you have been one of the 17,000 fortunate enough to get a ticket, this is what you would have seen and heard.
My dad wore a suit and tie, and he was very nervous about the whole thing. He was a policeman, retired policeman then, so he was completely expecting the worst. And, you know, there was so much news about all the crowds, how big the crowd was going to be. And he'd heard, you know, things about girls fainting. And when we got to the Cow Palace, we had amazing seats. We had seats right off to the left of the stage, right up at the barrier. So there was sort of that walkway, or think of the Grand National where the horses come running in. We were right at the end of that barrier, and then right across from that was the stage. So we had amazing seats. And he kept telling us, now, if I tell you you have to, you need to get under those seats and you stay there. And of course, I just remember once the music started, it was so loud. I mean, the music and the screaming, and he pretty much, lost all hope of control at that point, because we were screaming so loud too and crying like everybody else that we had no hope of hearing him.
The concert was over. For a few seconds, nobody moved. Either they were too emotionally exhausted to move, or they hoped for one last glimpse of their heroes. They had been on stage a total of 31 minutes, but few complained that the concert had been too short. It appeared they couldn't have taken much more. Soon, the more rabid fans descended upon the stage area, begging for jelly beans which had been thrown at and stepped on by the Beatles. Others were content to merely touch the stage on which the Beatles had stood. Many girls collapsed. Some were taken away in ambulances. A boy suffered a dislocated hip. But to the amazement of practically everybody, the Cow Palace in San Francisco had survived. How long will it last? No one knows. But those rumors you've been hearing, that the Beatles are on their way out, that their star is descending, forget it. Gary Park, KCRA News. Good night.
Initial plans to stay in San Francisco were scrapped, and the Beatles flew on to their next stop, Las Vegas, that night. Embarking the plane in San Francisco, they were met by 40-year-old airline associate Ruby Hickman, who would go on to spend a week as part of their entourage. They slept that night in the Sahara Hotel in Vegas and spent the morning in their penthouse suite. Slot machines were placed inside their hotel rooms as the hotel didn't want the Beatles downstairs attracting underage fans into the casino. In an interview with Larry Kane in Las Vegas, Paul adamantly refused to play to segregated crowds, saying, "We've never played to segregated audiences before. It just seems mad to me. Some of my best friends are colored people. There's never segregated audiences in England, and if there was, we wouldn't play them." That day, they performed 2 shows with crowds constantly screaming, "Ringo for President." Famed pianist Liberace and actor Pat Boone were present and both met with the Beatles backstage. Drama ensued after the show at 3 a.m. as a mother stormed the hotel, calling the police because her daughters were partying with the Beatles in their hotel room. She claimed that they were there against their will. The girls quickly were returned to their mother, but John and Brian spent the rest of the night being questioned by police. No arrests were made, but supposedly a payoff of $10,000 was made to the mother. The next day, the presumably tired John and Brian, as well as the rest of the entourage, all traveled to Seattle, where they would be staying at the Edgewater Hotel and perform in front of almost 15,000 fans at the Seattle Coliseum.
Well, originally, and I won't know whether we're right or not until next Monday. By that time, we'll all be experts in this thing. But I found it very hard to believe that we would have the problems in Seattle. I still, in my own mind, even though we're making the preparations, I really don't think in what the experience we've had with teenagers in the community, and we've had several of their functions here, not only here but other places that we've been associated with. I did not, and I frankly still don't anticipate the rioting and the wild times that you're having in other cities.
Hello. Very good. How was Las Vegas?
It's very nice, thanks.
Was it? Very good.
Oh, it's a film, man. That'll do.
Just some sound. Okay. Did you play the slot machines?
Yeah, but we didn't win, you know.
How was your reception in Las Vegas?
Oh, it was great. Marvelous place. In fact, you know, so far we've had great receptions. Good place, this America. Lovely.
And listen to Marcy's description of being so close to the Beatles limousine.
I mean, literally throwing ourselves on it. I mean, you could see in the we were like plastered up so you could see inside and see them. And here are these poor guys, and they're laughing and everything because they're safe now.
Is the public, the general public, going to get to see the Beatles if they don't have a ticket?
Oh, very improbable that they can even get a fleeting glimpse. If they would recognize them, it would be rather improbable.
How about yourself, Inspector? Are you a Beatle fan?
No, I can't even cut my hair that way.
This is Nick Freeman at the Edgewater Inn.
on the shores of downtown Seattle. We're getting ready to bring you live coverage of the Beatles' arrival here sometime this afternoon. As you can see in the background here, many precautions have been taken by the Seattle police. There are large barricades that have been erected along the onshore side of the Edgewater Inn, and at this time there are probably, maybe 100 or 200 teenagers getting ready to welcome the Beatles here. There are many policemen, lots of walkie-talkies, and a lot of security precautions have been taken. The crowd is forming out here, and we're here to bring you exclusive live coverage of the arrival of the Beatles. That's Operation Beatle, live on TV7.
How long have you been standing here?
Oh, I don't know, too long. Oh, I can't wait.
Are you getting tired?
Oh, yeah, but I can't help it. I'm not tired. I just want them.
And as the excitement builds, you can hear the noise in the background and the police motorcycles and the big bus. We've been talking all afternoon with Mr. Don Wright, the manager of the Edgewater, and he is a man in a frenzy. He's had more problems in the last few days than probably most people have in a lifetime as far as last-minute details to take care of, to keep safety precautions at the utmost here so that we don't have a riot scene. It sounds to me like, here they come. Or at least here comes someone. And the teenagers are trying to break through the barricade. Here they come. Led by a Seattle motorcycle policeman, and they're in a limousine, followed by some of the press contingent. Here they come.
Over, fellas. Over this way.
You can hear the frenzied excitement here in the background. Here come the Beatles. Paul, George, John, and Ringo. There they are. There's John, George, Paul, and Ringo. There they go, up into the Edgewater Inn, and you're seeing it live and exclusively here on TV7. We'll follow their progress up the stairs now as they proceed into the Edgewater Inn and pick them up on our camera in the hallway upstairs. As they go up the stairs, and the safety precautions work very well, we might add. Very proud of the Seattle Police Department and the safety precautions that were taken here. And now you see the shot from our camera going in, and here they come upstairs in the hallway going toward their room. They're going down the hall to the big suite that they have on the second floor here at the Edgewater Inn. You can see them proceeding down the hall. There they are, John, Paul, George, and there's Ringo bringing up the rear as they go into the room. At this point, we won't be showing you any more of the Beatles because they have, there it is, room 272. We can't very well tell you they're not in that room because you can see the sign right there. Moments, and they promised that they would, so let's talk to them. Hi, what's your name?
Janie Vick.
Want to look right over here, Janie, so the camera can see you? Why did you come down here today?
Because I love the Beatles.
Which Beatle is your favorite Beatle?
George.
Are you going to the big show tonight to see them? How long ago did you buy your tickets?
Last week of April.
Why did you come down here today if you're going to see them tonight?
Because I love them.
You love them?
Yeah.
And why do you love them?
Because they're the Beatles and they're neat. This is good.
Thank you. Hi, what's your name?
Jenna Spencer.
Why did you come down here today?
Because I love the Beatles.
You told me earlier that you'd just die if they didn't wave at you when they went out. Was that true?
Yeah, well, I don't know whether I die, but I try.
Hi, who are you?
Mary Nelson.
Hi, Mary. Who's your favorite Beatle?
Paul.
Paul?
Yeah.
Tell me all about Paul.
Oh, he's just the cheeriest. He's a mouse.
Thank you. Who are some of these girls over here? I think the Beatles are about to come out of the room. And here comes some of their party. There's the manager, Don Wright. And here they come. There are Ringo, Paul, George, and John as they're coming down the stairway here, the window down. How do you like Seattle?
Great. Just been watching your show.
Well, thank you very much. Lots of luck tonight. One small comment from a member of the Beatles. He said he liked Seattle fine, and he'd been watching our show, our coverage here this evening of their departure from the Edgewater Inn.
Did you see the needle at all, Tom?
Yeah, the space needle.
Did you go out?
No.
Did you get any fishing in today? We had heard that you had 4 fishing poles there.
Yeah.
Did you catch any? No. Okay.
Someone on the other side of the bay kept shouting, "There's no fish in here."
Oh, it's good to be back.
But no one remembers it.
It was a beautiful day just like this when the Beatles arrived.
Quite like Nancy King.
Oh, it's my Mecca. And I think how lucky I was.
Already was.
I was walking around the hotel and I heard all of these men talking in British accents.
She befriended a columnist for the Liverpool Echo, traveling with the Beatles on tour, when he got a phone call from the Beatles' manager, Brian Epstein.
It was just starting to wrap up, and he said, "I've got a 16-year-old girl here, and I was wondering if she could come down and meet the boys." By this time, I had been so happy just to see them leave the hotel. To me, that was as good as it was going to get. Brian opened the door, and Paul was standing right behind him. So he was the first Beatle that I saw. George and Paul, we were over sort of in that area, you know, talking for several minutes. Then they brought me over, introduced me to John. Pretty soon, Ringo came out, and he was rubbing his hair with a towel. And there was a bar area right here with some bar stools. I remember distinctly Paul offering me a cigarette, and I really wish I would have taken it now just to have as a souvenir. And you can actually...
At their show that night, concert host Pat O'Day records George turning off his guitar for 30 seconds, shrugging and saying it doesn't matter, so he can't hear anyway. After their show, the promoters decided to keep the Beatles backstage and to send their limousine as a decoy. The decoy limousine was besieged by fans, and supposedly the roof caved in from fans. The Beatles were escorted out inside an ambulance. The ambulance arrived back at the Edgewater Hotel, where they spent the night and morning there before flying on to Vancouver.
Is this the first time you used an ambulance as a decoy in trying to get out of the a Coliseum?
Yeah.
It is?
It was good, you know, because we all had a laugh in the back of the ambulance. There was about, I think it was about 7 seamen in the sailors, you know, they were all screaming and laughing.
Well, what was the purpose?
So, I think it was just to hide our heads, you know, because nobody sort of knew we were in the ambulance, I don't think, in the end.
They used us as an excuse to go mad. The world did, and then blamed it on us. And we were just in the middle of that in a car or a hotel room. We couldn't really do much. I mean, we couldn't go out. We couldn't, you know, couldn't do anything.
Don, was it worth it?
I would say at this point, yes, I really would. A great deal of fun, and we didn't lose too much business over it. I don't think we made too many people mad, and I think a lot of people in Seattle know where the Edgewater Inn now is now when they didn't before.
I understand you sold some of the things that were in the Beatles' room.
Yes, we did. We made a arrangement with Southwick McDougall for the carpeting, and it was torn up within 30, 40 minutes after they were gone, smuggled out of the building in an unmarked truck. And everything else that was in that room that we did not give to Southwick McDougall, we treated just like state papers. We destroyed it, and it was boxed, and I personally saw that it was taken out of the hotel, and the furniture has been widely distributed throughout the hotel, and the furnishing's changed, so we don't want any anticipation of souvenir hunters coming in to prowl through the room and say the Beatles touched this.
You got a lot of publicity value out of this.
A great deal, yes.
Was it worth hiring all these security people, putting up a fence, etc.?
I think so, yes. Northwest Releasing called me this morning and they said, you know, you did such a good job, they're coming back in October. I said, well, we're pros in it now. I think we'd welcome them back.
They were kidding, of course.
I hope. I didn't have nerve enough to ask, for sure.
Firstly, Ruby Hickman had to deal with a threat that a bomb was planted on the plane. She pondered with an airport executive, who would want to hurt the Beatles? And he said, there are people out there so lacking in identity that they would do anything to kill one or all of the Beatles just to get their name in the paper. Once it was assured that the plane could not possibly have a bomb on board, they took off. The second debacle involved some passport issues. The plane had to turn back to Seattle, and they didn't arrive in Canada until 6 p.m. Instead of heading to the hotel, where there were thousands of fans waiting for them, the Beatles were taken on a 40-minute tour of the city, and they stopped at King's Burgers for hamburgers and milkshakes, before going straight to the Empire Stadium for a press conference and the night's show.
Do you think overexposure with movies and too many record releases perhaps could damage your career?
We don't release any more records than anybody else. Just so
We've only made one movie.
They make everything we make into a single over here.
In fact, we've
made 3 albums.
Sorry,
Sorry, Paul.
Sorry. No,
In England, we made 3 albums. And they got 7 out over there, or about 7.
So work that out for yourself.
See? They just make them up.
In fact, we've made less records than most people. So that we've only ever made 7 singles.
7
and
singles.
It seems to me like thousands, you know.
Over here, we get one every day.
Yeah. Well, we only made 7, you know.
I noticed none of you smoke. Do you have any drinking habits?
We do smoke.
What's this? Not peanuts, you know.
And we drink too. Before we went to Liverpool last time for the Northern premiere of the film, we'd been down in London a lot because we've been doing the film and TV and things, and everybody was saying, I've just been up to Liverpool and they hate you up there and it's terrible, nobody likes you anymore. And we believed them, because we read the paper the same as anyone else. And we went up there and it was the most ridiculous reception we've had anywhere, So I give in believing these rumours.
I ask you if you've ever had a dress reception in a more comfortable room.
The plane was late. They wouldn't let him into Canada. Why?
Because of the hair.
Somebody
had to be deloused before we came.
All right.
Well, it's a thought, Paul. It's a thought,
The
John.
Hotel Georgia would like to know, are you staying at the Hotel Georgia tonight, or are you carrying on to Seattle?
We're flying to somewhere. Where are we going?
Where do you go? Where do you go tonight?
Yes, L.A. or something.
You're flying out tonight?
Yes, sir.
May we have your suites for a party?
Certainly.
Right. Okay.
Why should pay for them?
No. Yes, you can have it as far as I'm concerned.
I can take it home.
What?
How you doing? What held you up on the way in here? Why wouldn't they let you into Canada?
Because the pilot didn't have a little stamp on his bit of paper. We got here and
There's one little thing
had to go
missing.
back.
That happened while you were in the air over
We
Vancouver?
were almost here, and he turned around, went back, got a little thing stamped on his passport. And we had more chicken sandwiches. And then we came again, and then the police took us for a 40-minute tour of the city. Because they weren't ready here.
There was something not ready,
What's the what?
Most unusual request we've ever had from a
Well, I wouldn't like to say.
Come on. It's more fun.
Ringo, are you engaged to Maureen Cox?
No.
Are you going to be?
No. Anything else?
Not even when you know.
We drink too.
How many of you had the original?
The three of us.
Who was the boy that was the head of...
A fella called Pete Best.
Why did he quit?
A fella called Pete Best.
Why did he quit?
We drew it out. One of those things,
How long was your
Recording manager said he
30 minutes.
30 minutes.
Just a bit over 30, yeah.
The concert was a bit of a fiasco, with the police unprepared to handle the crush of 20,000 fans trying to reach the stage. More than 100 people required medical attention, with many injured seriously enough to be taken to the hospital.
That's Jackie DeShannon finishing up her portion of the Beatle performance here at Empire Stadium in Vancouver, British Columbia. Listen to that crowd. She can really work one up with that song called Shout. Everybody is standing on their feet by the time she completes that particular song, and on many occasions, it's pretty hard to make them sit back down. As on every performance thus far, the MC comes out, tries to get his announcement out about here come the Beatles, but the audience never hears his remarks.
And also, I would like to say right now, that you've been a strong crowd here tonight, so let's keep up the good work. And it would be a very deal of pleasure to have the team, the 380
Here they come. You can hear that response from this audience right now. They're jumping up and down. They did it. There are four iron fences that run in front of the stage in the middle of the stadium. That crowd is up out of their seats. They're straining at the first of that wire fence, and it looks like it's going to go any minute now. They're trying to get on stage. Some of the camera's spotlights are going out of the audience right now, and you can see them shaking their heads up and down, squealing and screaming. A typical reaction to a typical Beatle appearance on stage. Everybody is waving at his or her favorite Beatles. And there we go, the Beatles in Vancouver. They told us it would be the worst mob of the whole tour. And it looks like they were right. At Empire Stadium, some 22,000 people jammed into this football field to see the Beatles. The Beatles are performing at one end of the field on a temporary stage. Directly in front of that stage, running the full width of the football field, are wire fences. There are 4 rows of them. Between the wire fences, approximately 5 to 6 feet. At that first fence, the first one that separates this audience from the boys on stage, you'll find everybody who is on the ground floor standing at that wire fence. Directly in front of me, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 policemen within about a 10-yard span who have their backs against the fence, their legs proned out, trying to reinforce that fence and trying to keep this mob back. While I've been standing here, at least 10 young girls have been passed across the fence because they either passed out or they got their legs or arms caught in the fence itself and were being crushed severely. For the first time since the Beatles started their American tour, Derek Taylor, their pressman, had to come on stage and request that the audience move back from against that wire fence. They're going to continue to perform, but it looks like Taylor's words went on unhearing ears tonight. Nobody moved an inch. This is undoubtedly the worst I've seen. Somebody just threw a bag up here. They didn't even bother to take the jelly beans out of the bag. They just threw the whole bag. Along the front of the fence, we have 2 or 3 lines of girls, and immediately behind that, you have everyone else standing up in their seats, and immediately behind that, you have girls standing up on the top of shoulders of other girls. I can't even see the other end of the stadium because of that mass of hysterical faces.
Before we go, we'd like to say to everybody here, thank you very much for coming. Thank you all. And we hope you've enjoyed the show.
After the concert, the group spent the night in their hotel before flying on to LA the next day. No time for the Beatles' arrival was revealed, but they were still greeted by hundreds at the airport. They then headed to their accommodation for the next few days, a big rented house in Bel Air. Next was a press conference before they show over at the Hollywood Bowl.
Do they plan to visit Iron Curtain countries like Hungary, Russia?
Do you plan to visit Iron Curtain countries?
We don't plan on visits. Our manager does, so ask him.
Yes.
You don't like Joe? Would you like to make a film in Hollywood? Someone have a like?
Yeah.
We don't mind, but we make a film where the film company thinks is suitable and cheaper.
Lady right to his question. What movie actors would you like to meet in Hollywood?
Paul Newman.
Paul Newman.
What movie actors?
Jane Mansfield.
Yes, ma'am.
Paul, you guys plan to date while you're in LA?
Well, see you around about 9 then.
John, could you take us on a fancy tour of the questions?
Date.
Yes, sir.
Any of you fellows athletes? What is your favorite sport?
No. Any of us
athletes now. We don't like what we like any sport except swimming.
Yes, there's a question in the back. If you speak up, we can't hear you. How things in will you leave with a civilization?
When they return to the civilization, arms be fired.
Oh.
What's he say?
The comedian.
What did he say?
That's what I'm saying. I don't know.
The question was, how contented the Beatles would be when they return from here to civilization on Cheapside.
Bowl in 1964, George Martin watched from backstage as the crowd went wild. The moment is vivid even 35 years later.
It was amazing because the sound of the audience was like 3,000 jet planes taking off. It was incredible. And they never stopped. It was just continual screaming from one moment to the next.